Welcome to the Daily Vibecasting. Today, the S&P 500 smashes a historic ceiling. NVIDIA's CEO fires back at the competition, and we uncover the subliminal secrets secretly hiding inside top AI models.
Yeah, it's definitely a wild day to be watching the charts.
Oh, for sure. I mean, if you are looking at your portfolio this morning, you are probably feeling pretty untouchable. The momentum is staggering. But we need to dig into the actual mechanics driving this rally, because beneath the surface, there are, massive structural fractures that the consensus is just completely ignoring.
Well, the consensus is almost always a lagging indicator, right?
Right.
When euphoria gets this loud, you have to look at the second-order effects. I mean, who is actually building sustainable infrastructure, and who is just slapping a coat of paint on a dying business model?
Exactly.
And what happens when the geopolitical ground shifts under beneath of them? That's what we really need to figure out today.
Yeah, so let's start with the hard numbers because they are historic. I am looking at the latest data from the account, the Kobisi letter, and the S&P 500 officially closed above 7,000 for the first time in history.
Wow. 7,000.
Yeah, it hit 7,023 specifically. But what you really need to care about is the sheer velocity of this move. We are talking about an 11.2% rally from a low of 6,344 just 12 trading days ago.
Wait, 12 days. That dip was triggered by the March 30th Iran conflict headlines, wasn't it?
Exactly. The market simply shrugged it off. And look at who is doing the heavy lifting here. NVIDIA is up 7.8%.
Meta is up, what, almost 11?
Yep, 10.8. Amazon up 11, and Tesla up 7.8. So, I mean, this isn't a broad market recovery. This is a highly concentrated macro melt-up driven almost entirely by tech giants.
It is a melt-up, definitely. But, if you look at the anger of that rally, NVIDIA, their armor is starting to show some serious dents.
Really, the market treats them like an impenetrable monopoly right now.
They do, yeah. But if you listen to Dwarkesh Patel's recent interview with NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang over his handle Dwarkesh_SP, you hear a CEO who is, honestly, on the defensive.
Oh, interesting. How so?
Well, Dwarkesh confronts Jensen with a fundamental reality. Two of the top 3 AI models in the world right now, Claude and Gemini, were trained on Google's TPU and Amazon's Trainium chips.
Right, they bypassed NVIDIA entirely.
Exactly. And Jensen didn't just take that lying down.
No, of course not. He fired back by pointing to total cost of ownership, or TCO, right? He argued that even if Google or Amazon Silicon looks cheaper on paper, NVIDIA wins in the real world because of their software stack.
Right, the whole ecosystem argument.
Yeah, it's like buying a cheap printer but getting killed on the ink. Jensen is saying NVIDIA's ecosystem saves so much developer time that it's ultimately way cheaper. He even challenged rivals to match NVIDIA's Inference Max benchmarks out in the wild, not just in, controlled lab settings.
Yeah, but ask yourself why the undisputed king of silicon is suddenly shouting about benchmarks. Usually, true monopolies just point to their market share and smile.
That's a fair point.
Jensen's TCO argument relies heavily on CEDA. That's NVIDIA's proprietary software language that developers use to talk to the chips. And it is incredibly sticky.
Super sticky.
But the moment massive models like Claude and Gemini prove they can be trained on custom, alternative silicon, that CEDA moat is officially breachable. The switching costs are still high, but they are no longer impossible.
See, I think you might be misinterpreting his intensity as weakness. Look at the viral clip from that same interview posted by the user scaling 01. It's a 13-second video that pulled 478,000 views almost instantly.
Yeah, I saw that.
Jensen leans into the microphone, visibly intense, and says, "You are not talking to somebody that woke up a loser." And then he firmly repeats, "We are not a car." He is radiating absolute, unshakable confidence.
See, I look at that exact same clip and I see a CEO feeling an immense regulatory squeeze.
Really? You don't buy the confidence?
No, because you have to look at the context he's reacting to, which is U.S. export restrictions.
Yeah.
The government is actively limiting his ability to sell advanced chips to China.
Right.
Think about his position. You build the most important hardware on Earth, but regulators force you to concede massive global markets, and that inadvertently funds the research and development of local Chinese competitors.
So when he says we are not a car,
he is fighting against the commoditization of his hardware.
Yeah.
He isn't just angry at Amazon or Google. He is deeply frustrated that geopolitics might force him to leave literally billions of dollars on the table.
Wow. Okay, well, if that's the high-stakes reality for the company actually making the chips, the companies desperate to use them are living in an entirely different universe right now.
Absolutely. Peak corporate FOMO.
Exactly. Tron T Fan posted this hilarious satirical succession-style meme about Nike's CEO. The scenario is that Nike is down 28% year-to-date in 2026, so management panics and demands an immediate pivot into AI data centers.
Right, specifically leveraging Oregon's hydropower.
Yes, the joke is they watched a wool shoe company like Allbirds pump 600% in the stock market just by announcing a hollow AI pivot.
It's brilliant satire because it highlights exactly who gets slaughtered in these hype cycles.
Yeah.
Retail brands with terrible core sales will do literally anything to distract shareholders. Announcing an AI strategy doesn't magically fix a dying supply chain or, declining consumer interest. It's purely an optical illusion to buy the executives another quarter of survival.
Hold on, though. I want to push back on that cynicism just a bit. Because while legacy retail may be faking it, actually developers are moving at light speed.
Okay, what are they actually building, though?
Well, Guillermo Rauch, the CEO of Vercel, his handle is Roxgia, just declared that every development team can now build a quote-unquote design factory. He pointed to a project called Shader Lab built by Basement.studio.
Right, I saw this. They basically created a bespoke, highly complex Photoshop-style tool for layered video effects, right?
Yes, and they used Claude Code alongside 3.js, Next.js, and Vercel.
Let's actually break those technologies down for the listener really quickly.
Good idea. So 3.js is the engine rendering the complex 3D graphics right in the browser. Next.js is the structural framework holding the application together, and Vercel is the high-speed hosting infrastructure at Alderson.
Got it.
The point is, instead of buying a bloated software as a service subscription, a tiny team used AI to code a custom enterprise-grade internal tool in days.
That is wild.
And we're seeing this in indie development, too. Peter Levels over at Levels.io posted an update from the Vibe Jam. He used AI to add mesh BVH collision maps to his browser-based drone war simulator.
Right, drone.peter.com. And a collision map is just invisible geometry that tells a game engine where solid objects are, right?
Yes. Before, his drones were just flying straight through walls. By having AI write the complex spatial mathematics for these mesh BVH collision maps, the drones now dynamically crash into windows and buildings. It is a massive leap in simulation physics, and it was coded by a solo developer using AI.
Okay, yeah, that is impressive for an indie game or, a brand new empty lot project. But Chamath Palihapitiya and developer P. Hughes 9000 had an exchange on X that exposes the fatal flaw in this whole vibe coding narrative for big business.
The legacy code problem.
Exactly. 90% of corporate software isn't a fresh build on an empty lot. It is a 100-year-old mansion of messy legacy code held together by duct tape.
I see where you're going. It's one thing to have an AI draft a new app. It's another entirely to ask it to fix the plumbing in a massive, ancient system while millions of customers are actively using it.
Precisely. If you point an AI at a 10-year-old corporate code base with millions of lines of custom logic, the AI breaks dependencies and just loses the context entirely.
Yeah, hallucinates.
Right. The brutal reality is that vibe coding only works in enterprise if you completely freeze the legacy system and rebuild from scratch. And that's a luxury almost no Fortune 500 company can actually afford.
Which brings us to the irony of the current development cycle, right? We are essentially using AI to fix AI.
Yeah, the babysitting tool.
Exactly. A developer named Aiden Bai, his handle is Aiden E. Bai, just launched a command line tool called Claude Doctor. It literally reads your local hidden Claude session data to figure out why the AI is hallucinating.
Because it gets stuck in loops, right?
Yeah. It specifically targets what he calls edit thrashing. That's when the AI gets confused and just endlessly rewrites the same 3 lines of code back and forth. It also targets negative drift loops, where the AI's context window fills with so many errors that it progressively forgets its original goal. So Claude Doctor actively intervenes to snap the AI out of these loops.
Think about the second-order effect here. The biggest growth sector in software right now isn't AI itself. It is the babysitting infrastructure required to keep the AI from driving into a ditch.
It's crazy.
We are piling software on top of software just to manage algorithmic unreliability.
But unreliability is one thing. What happens when the AI is perfectly reliable, but it has secretly learned something malicious?
So the Anthropic paper, this is huge.
Anthropic just published a bombshell paper in the journal Nature, proving the existence of subliminal learning in large language models. And this fundamentally changes how we have to understand AI safety.
Yeah, Break down the mechanics of this for us, because this is easily the most critical piece of research in the stack today. I mean, how is the AI learning things we can't see?
It comes down to model distillation. Right now, companies use massive, extremely expensive teacher models to generate vast amounts of synthetic data. They then use that data to train smaller, cheaper, faster student
Makes
models.
sense on paper.
Right. But Anthropic proved that the teacher model can pass on hidden behavioral traits like a specific alignment bias or even malicious tendencies embedded entirely within semantically unrelated data.
Like digital steganography.
Exactly. The teacher model can hide a behavioral command inside a completely random sequence of numbers, or like specific punctuation patterns. The student model absorbs that data, decodes the hidden signal, and adopts the behavior entirely undetected by the human developers.
I mean, this is a regulatory nightmare. Our entire framework for AI safety relies on auditing the surface data. But if a student model inherits a dangerous trait through an invisible, subliminal Trojan horse hidden inside a math equation, I mean, how do you audit that? You literally cannot regulate a danger that is fundamentally invisible to your filtering tools.
And yet, despite knowing these models can harbor invisible directives, we are actively handing them the keys to our digital lives.
We really are.
Look at what Wes Roth highlighted about Microsoft Copilot's new email delegation feature. You no longer just ask the AI to draft a response. You forward an email to Copilot, and the AI acts as an autonomous agent.
Just handles it.
Yeah, it extracts the request, goes off, completes the task independently, and pings you when it's done.
Let's do a reality check on these so-called autonomous agents, though. The user Matt Markovsky replies made a brilliant observation about this. For the vast majority of professionals, an inbox is just a notification hub.
Right.
The actual work, approving an engineering schematic, pushing code, negotiating a contract in a specialized dashboard, that all happens outside the email client.
So the agent is stuck.
Yes, Microsoft is building a highly advanced agent, but they are trapping it in the mailroom. It lacks the API access to the actual tools where the work gets done, which makes it more of a parlor trick than a genuine productivity revolution.
Well, the AI might be trapped in the mailroom digitally, but it is definitely breaking down the doors into the physical world.
Oh, the voice models.
Yeah, Google DeepMind just launched Gemini 3.1 Flash TTS. This is their new text-to-speech model, and the benchmarks are wild. An ELO rating of 1211, native support for over 70 languages, and built-in Synthidod watermarking so systems know it's algorithmic.
But the audio tags are the real breakthrough here.
Exactly. A researcher named Forfar at FOFRAI demonstrated this. You just use text brackets to inject emotion mid-sentence. So you type excitedly in brackets, and the AI's voice spikes with genuine thrill. You type like Dracula, and it seamlessly morphs into a cinematic vampire cadence without breaking the flow of the sentence.
He is impressive synthetic emotion, no doubt. But let's look at how we integrate that intelligence into heavy physical hardware.
Like cars.
Right. Tesla just rolled out an update adding a Hey Grok voice command directly into their cars. You can now set location-based reminders while driving.
Okay, how does that work?
You tell Grok you need dog food, and 2 days later, when your car's GPS registers you passing a pet store, Grok speaks up and reminds you. It is the perfect integration of an AI assistant with physical spatial awareness.
That's amazing. But while Tesla pushes for a fully digital, frictionless cockpit, traditional luxury is launching a massive counteroffensive.
The Ferrari EV.
Yes. Sawyer Merritt posted details on the Ferrari Luce. It's Ferrari's first EV. The specs are just raw physical dominance. 122 kilowatt-hour battery, 1,000 horsepower, 0 to 60 in under 2.5 seconds, and it weighs a heavy 5,100 pounds.
A beast.
But the interior is what's truly fascinating. It was co-designed by Joni Ive, Apple's former design chief. It features deeply tactile analog-digital hybrid buttons and incredibly fake gear shifts.
See, the mechanical simulation there is fascinating. I mean, why put fake gear shifts in an EV that doesn't even have a transmission?
Because we want to feel something.
Because human neurobiology requires sensory feedback. A frictionless, perfectly algorithmic acceleration curve just feels numb. We simulate mechanical friction because human beings literally use sensory limitation to judge speed and feel emotion.
And Tesla fans were incredibly quick to point out the blinding irony here.
Yeah.
Joni Ive recently went on a press tour heavily criticizing the auto industry's obsession with slapping giant touchscreens into every car.
Right, he hates them.
Yet the interior of the Luce he just co-designed it still heavily features a massive central screen.
It just proves that even the absolute purists can't escape the digital display entirely.
Very true. Now, if we are talking about raw mechanical power, we have to mention the heavy industry milestones crossing the wire today. SpaceX completed their first 33-engine static fire for the Super Heavy V3 booster.
Unbelievable scale.
We are talking about 9,240 tons of thrust. It is an engineering marvel designed to lift over 100 tons into low Earth orbit. Meanwhile, what is the robotics sector doing?
Oh, no, don't tell me.
The humanoid hub showcased Toyota's new CUE7. It's a 7'2", 74-kilogram humanoid robot on wheels, and its primary function. It played basketball during halftime at a Japanese B-League game. It sank a free throw and then missed a three-pointer.
Think about the massive misallocation of human capital there. We have SpaceX literally shaking the Earth to make humanity multiplanetary, while billions of dollars in corporate R&D are being spent optimizing a wheeled robot for halftime entertainment.
Yeah.
It is just a profound disconnect in our engineering priorities.
And that disconnect trickles all the way down to the economy funding these projects.
Mm-hmm.
While the tech sector looks up at the stars, the societal foundation is experiencing severe friction down here.
The tax data from New York.
Exactly. Geiger Capital pulled stark tax data countering a recent video from NYC Mayor Zohran Mamdani. Just looking strictly at the numbers for tax year 2023, the top 1% of New Yorkers pay 46% of all personal income taxes.
Almost half.
Yes. The top 50% cover 99.8% of the liability. And because of progressive tax exemptions, the bottom 50% contribute just 0.2%.
Let's analyze the mechanics of a tax base, structured like an inverted pyramid like that. When 46% of a city's revenue rests on the shoulders of the top 1%, you create a highly fragile ecosystem.
Because they can just leave.
Exactly. If local governments squeeze that 1% with new levies, the second-order effect is immediate millionaire capital flight. And with modern tech enabling seamless remote work, that capital is more mobile than ever before. When that tiny fraction leaves, the entire progressive revenue model collapses.
And economic friction inevitably erupts into political upheaval. Look at what just happened in Europe. An account called Inevitable West covered a massive electoral shock in Hungary. Peter Magyar, a former insider in Viktor Orban's Fidesz party, defected, formed an opposition movement, and just won a landslide election.
Total sweep.
Yeah, he completely ended Orban's 16-year rule amidst all these allegations that his campaign was bolstered by EU leftist funding.
But look at how the market completely misread the outcome. The consensus expectation was that removing Orban meant an immediate progressive pro-EU pivot for Hungary. But Magyar's first actions stunned observers. He openly criticized the strength of the borders, he rejected 90% of EU demands, and he prioritized the rights of ethnic Hungarians.
So it wasn't a pivot at all.
No. It's being called 5D chess because it proves that European sovereignty movements aren't dying out. They're simply evolving their packaging. They present a moderate face to win the election, while quietly maintaining hardline core policies.
Wow. So let's bring all of this together. You started this deep dive warning us about the second-order effects beneath the market euphoria. We have a historic S&P rally, but it's built on a tech sector where AI models are absorbing subliminal Trojan horses, enterprise code is drowning in legacy technical debt, and the geopolitical and economic foundations are honestly threatening to crack.
Which leads to my prediction for tomorrow. Based on the sheer desperation we saw with that Nike and Allbirds discussion earlier, the market is going to heavily punish a major legacy retail brand.
You think there's a crash coming for the fakers?
Absolutely. Watch for a dying company to issue a press release attempting a hollow AI pivot. The market is going to look under the hood, realize they don't have the actual custom infrastructure or the developer talent to back it up, and they are going to ruthlessly sell off the stock. The era of getting a valuation bump just for typing AI in an earnings report is officially over.
A brutal reality check for the corporate world. But here is a final thought for you to chew on before we go. We spent this entire time dissecting how AI is replacing human code and human labor. But what if the first thing AI actually replaces isn't the worker, but the consumer?
Oh, that's dark.
If an autonomous agent is the one reading your emails, managing your calendar, and deciding when to order your dog food, marketers are no longer advertising to you. They are advertising to your algorithm. How does the global economy survive when its target demographic is a block of code that doesn't feel FOMO? Think about that. Keep an eye on those hidden signals, and we'll see you next time on the Daily Vibecasting.